and I'm somewhat embarrassed about this. I was really bad on this issue for a long time. Even after I was really good on pretty much everything else, I always kind of, without really thinking about it, just bought into the kind of mutually assured destruction idea. And you go, well, it's kind of on the surface. It's easy to feel that way. You go, well, look, the only time nuclear weapons were ever used, again, not tested, but used against civilians, was when only one country had nuclear weapons. And as soon as one more country got them, they were never used again. And so that must mean that basically, America doesn't really go to war with nuclear armed countries. We only go to these proxy wars with them. So maybe, this would be this massive deterrent if everybody had nukes or more people had nukes, and they'll never be used. The problem with that, and you really set me straight on this years ago, not on the podcast, just talking off air, is that you're like, well, yeah, but that's if you ignore all the times we almost went to nuclear war and destroyed all of humanity, which really, I mean, like, there have been several times where we were dangerously close to that. And now you even look at just the recklessness of the Biden administration with this war in Ukraine with Russia, and you're like, yeah, no, I mean, that it's a risky game to play that really relies on a few men in high up positions who are all, government agents. So in other words, sociopaths. We're just kind of relying on them to not destroy all of humanity, which is really not a good position to be in.
Yeah, I'm telling you, man, it's unimaginable, but that doesn't make it impossible. And, it's really easy to see, frankly, if you're just willing to honestly consider it. That, well, as you just said, we're talking about government employees here. The first thing we know about government programs is you don't get to decide how they're run, and you don't get to have your magic wish the way you think it should be. It is what it is. They get, a grant of permission from us, and then they take the ball and run with it however they want. And so the thing of it is that, well, first of all, just to make ourselves very clear here, one bomb, even a little bitty one, even what they would now call tactical nuclear weapon, 10 or 15 kilotons. That's what they dropped on Nagasaki, killed 75,000 people. And that was a weird one because it was in this valley and all that. Hiroshima was 150, 200,000 with a 10 kiloton bomb. Okay. That's a little bitty nuke. Wiped that, and yes, the city itself was made of wood and paper, but it completely obliterated it. Completely obliterated. A modern nuclear bomb would wipe whoever's listening to this town completely off the face of the earth, right? If you live in a major city, if they hit Austin, Texas, where I'm from, with a 1 megaton nuke, which is, or even, in the high tens of kilotons, you're talking, for people who are familiar, like from Breaker Lane to Stastny would be destroyed, would just be gone. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people killed in an instant. And then a lot more people, baked to death slowly, and radiation sickness and all the rest of that. So you're talking about just an absolutely unmitigated horror show. If a nuke ever goes off anywhere, even a single one anywhere, this is just, it's, beyond imagination, the level of destruction that these things can bring. Just a single one. So that's what we're talking about now. And then we're talking about government agents who are in charge of it. And if the idea in the mind of, for you or for your audience or whatever, is that it's just unthinkable that a man would go so far and be so bold as to pull the trigger on such a machine. Well, they've done it before. And as you said, yeah, well, they didn't have a nuclear deterrent facing them down. But look at the mindset of Harry Truman and of Burns. I always forget Burns' his first name, the Secretary of State, and Stimson, the Secretary of War. And their idea was like, yeah, let's hit them Japs with that thing, man. Let's do it. We'll show them. And that's it. Right? The same way if you were at war, you might talk about shooting somebody with a howitzer. Yeah, we'll show them. We'll blast them with some artillery. Only we're talking about one shell takes out a whole city. And they talk about it the same way. It's just a bomb. And then, so in the mind of some Pakistani colonel, you're supposed to just be assured and sleep well at night that, like, no, that Pakistani colonel would never be so careless as to get into a nuclear war. Well, he might. And in fact, the Pakistani military, at least for a time, I don't know if it's like this now, but there was a time where they announced that they had devolved control and decision-making over the nuclear weapons to colonels in the battlefield, not generals back at headquarters. But if you think you see an Indian armored column coming, go ahead and lob an A-bomb at it. It was the authority they already had. And we got a border dispute between India and China right now in the Himalayas, and the Americans are training with the Indians just a few miles away from the disputed border right now. I was on antiwar.com yesterday, speaking of the recklessness of the Biden administration.